G'day, Greg Miller from The Joy of Wood. Hammers. I love hammers and nails. Nails are so delightfully honest, aren't they? Wonderful. What I'd like to do is just talk a little bit about hammers for a moment. This hammer here is called a Warrington Cross Pein Hammer. And the beautiful thing about it, it has two ends. So we've got the normal end here, we've got that end for getting into tricky places. It's a traditional cabinet making hammer. These are the hammer of choice in all the work that we do with kids. And it's amazing how quickly kids learn to use that end. What's really tragic is when parents give a little kid a massive claw hammer like this. It's just the wrong weight. And if a kid has to use two hands on it, they're not going to learn good hammering skills. So I would always say, don't worry with these things. Get rid of them. The claw is a distraction. Having taught kids a lot, thousands of kids over the last 10 years, when you have a claw on the end, the nail just starts to bend a tiny little bit and the kids will swing it around to start to pull the nail out when all they need to do was to change the angle of the hammer. So let's get rid of the big claw hammer, save that up for those big 4-inch nails, and let's have a look at some of these. Now these cross pein hammers come in different weights and sizes. You notice the heads vary in their size. So when we're working with kids, we'll have an array of different ones out for people to choose from to find the right one. But I can use any of these very successfully for any nails that are about 2.5 inches and under that, or about 65 mils and under that. So I'm just going to use one of these in this process. So as I said, we've got that end there for the tricky bit, getting into tight places. If I've got really tiny little brads in between my fingers, I can get it started and then spin it around and carry on. So let's have a little bit of a look at how hammering works. I'm actually making one of these beautiful little boxes here. These are great fun. We sell kits to these. You can do all sorts of different shapes on the ends and up here with the handle. I want to show you the process for how we do this. It's really good for people to use the tool correctly, and then for us adults to be teaching the kids in our lives how to do this correctly. So this side goes on here. I'm going to make it flush all the way around here. Flush means it's not hanging over. When you rub your finger across it, you can feel it's like one continuous surface. So it's going to be flush there and along here and up on there. The positioning of the nails is important, because if you put a nail right on the very edge here, you're inviting it to split in there. We don't want that to split. So I would come, in this case, where we're going into material just 12 mils thick, I would bring this back roughly 30 mils in about there. And I'll do the same from the other end. What you'll see then that I'm going to do is I'm probably going to divide this up into thirds. Now you can measure this, or you can use that mathematical part of your brain and say, that's pretty good. So there we go, we've got 4 nails spread along here. You don't have to just use a pencil, but that's often a good way of making sure that you get it right. But I've just used my eye and said, well, there's about 30 mils, there's about 30 mils, and then we're going to do the rest. So let me just walk you through the process. A bit of glue. This is the favourite go-to glue around here, Titebond 3. It's a waterproof glue. You notice the way I'm using this, I'm using the end like a paintbrush, so I don't have to put too much on. And I want good coverage on there, rather than like kids putting tomato sauce on their vegetables and pouring it from a great height, great rivers of glue. We just need enough. So I've put the glue on there, and then I'm going to locate this right where I want it. Okay, so the next thing to do is get the right nail for the job. That is not the right nail for the job. This one here is a little bit too short. The next one up, sounds like the 3 bears, doesn't it? This one here will be perfect. That 30 mils will be just ideal for what we need. So I'm going to take my hammer. Let's start up this end here. So I want this to be flush in the corner. I need that nail to go in, so it's in from the edge about 1/2 of the thickness of that piece of wood that we're going into. Now you notice the way I'm holding the hammer? I've actually got my pointy finger, index finger, on the top. That gives really nice control. So I set that up right where I want it, and this hand's job is to keep that in the right position. So not only is it keeping it flush, but I'm pressing down on it so it's not sliding around in that little bed of glue. And this hand is just checking it's in the right place, and in we go. Now you notice this is in the line of my eye. That's working really nicely. If my eye's over here and I'm hammering over there, you actually can't see where you're going with it, and you can't even see if the nail is bending over. So I'm going to tap that in until it's flush across the surface, and I'm pretty happy with that. Now the next nail to put in is not this one. The next nail we want is that one, because if this is moved and no longer flush, we want to get it right there. So I'll get the next nail of the appropriate size, park it in here, get that started so it can stand up by itself. Now this hand's job is to hold this in the right place. And in we go. Nice, firm hits. Now sometimes you'll see people holding it like this, trying to push a nail in. It doesn't work. And as you get towards the end, your strikes don't get smaller, they actually get a little bit bigger. So now we've pegged the two ends, I'm going to do the ones in the middle. Don't worry about that glue yet. We're going to deal with that once we've finished squeezing it out, because the nail pulls the two surfaces together, which squeezes out a bit more glue. Get that in the right spot. Now what helps this to go in nice and straight, or continue, even if I'm putting it deliberately on an angle, to keep it on an angle, it's all about the angle of the hammer in relation to the nail. I'll demonstrate with this. The hammers like that, the nail on that angle, we need them the same. If I'm hitting from here, then it's going to bend the nail over. That's why it's a problem for kids working on a surface which is too high for them. It's just inviting every nail to bend over. So you want to be able to swing from back here, from the elbow, with a little bit of wrist, and that will work nicely. Right, in we go there with that one. Drive that in. Now we're moving along to the next one. Alright, in we go, getting it started. Now if I found that the hammer was too heavy for me, I could move my hand up here further. So it's easier to pick up, but I lose power. Back there, I gain more power. This is quite a light, very light little hammer, beautiful one. And that's going to work nicely. So then I'm just going to come around the corner up into here. Same deal, if I come right on the edge, I'm inviting this bit of timber to split. So I'm going to come down about 10 mils from the top and plug that right into there. And I'm going to give it another one for good measure. I'm going to come up again about 30 mils from the bottom and plug that in there. So what happens if you're plugging a nail in and it starts to go astray? And that might be that I'm hitting from the wrong angle, which sets it up to start to bend over. So what I've got to do is change the angle of the hammer so that the head is doing what the nail's doing, and I can rescue it. I can keep going, drive it in. However, if I go too far and it gets to there, rather than drive that in and make it look pretty ugly, that's where we need to be able to extract the nail and start again. Now the cross pein hammer, of course, doesn't have a claw on the end. So that's where we use the pincers. Their sole job in life is to pull nails out. So the thing is, we're going to use the curve in here. If you grab the nail down near the base, squeeze it. Don't squeeze it down here, squeeze it up there. The further out you go, the more power you get in here. So get your hand right up on the end, squeeze, and we're going to utilise that and roll. And with very little effort, I can pull the nail out. You can see the nail is quite bent, so that one goes. We're going to get a fresh one. Now if I'd pull this out because the nail has started to wander out the side, if I put the nail in the same hole, it's just going to go where the last one went. So in this case, I'm pretty confident I can put this in, but otherwise I would have a fresh start. start it in another spot just next to it. In we go. You notice that hand coming across there each time. I'm actually checking to see that it is all the way in. Coming up that roughly that 30 mils. In we go. Drive that one in. And then, now we've clamped the two together, we're using a damp cloth. Now the damp cloth will clean up that glue. This glue dries pretty quickly and it dries waterproof. But while it's soft, we can come in around here and clean it up. There we go. There's the start of it. To see where we're heading, there's a few different variations here. Look at these. These are so cool to make. We sell kits for these. We also have got these nail selections available. There are 5 different sizes going from 20 millimeters up to 65s. Little boys are really always prone to go for the biggest nail possible, which is always very funny. And one of the skills with hammering is learning to use the right nail for the job. It's learning how to hold the hammer so we get the best use out of it. And as with all hand tool woodworking, it's the position of the eye. If you are hammering and the hammer is close to the eye, it'll work beautifully. If your eye is too far away, it'll be a lot harder to make it work. So you can make this easier for your kids by making sure they're working on a surface which makes it easy for them. It's got to be somewhere in there so they can use their elbow. If they've got to work up above here somewhere, they're guaranteed to keep bending nails over. And it's just teaching them the basic skills. Hammering is a life skill. It's a fantastic thing to be able to do. So enjoy your hammering and it'll just be life-changing stuff. Amazing what your kids can produce and what you can make yourself. See you in the workshop. Cheers.